May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Happy Friday, everybody. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win right here on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott Robertson, your host, and dare I say, long weekend vacation buddy. You guys are driving, right? And with me on the air today is the man that hosts the Changing Stage and Gear Talk Radio right on Intertalk, Florentino Buenaventura. How are you, my man?
Oh, man. Hey, I'm here. And I am not Scott Robertson. So, yeah, man, I'm ready for a new lesson on marketing and the music business. And we just did a really cool thing over at the Musicians Institute last night. I want to give a shout out to Make Music LA, as well as our good friends over at Balance Breakfast Music Industry Meetup. They put this on, yours truly, and the hostess with the mostest, Miss Barbara Leung, were basically doing the moderating, and we had some great students from the Musicians Institute there, and really good session on the business and how to be relevant. So, and marketing is a big part of it. What we talked about.
Always. It always comes up, doesn't it? Absolutely. So we're gonna get right into it. You know, if you out there in listener land, if you have a question for me, you can always email me at scott@robertsoncoms, 2M's like communications.com, and I will answer anything you guys want right on the show. In fact, some of the things that we're going to talk about today come from such sharing and posts and emails that I'm getting out there. You can also find my posts and my client news clips and other tidbits at my RobertsonCom Facebook page. Just search RobertsonCom on Facebook or Twitter at RobertsonCom. Just reach out and connect. Hopefully you'll be entertained and get a few tips too. Today on the big show, we are talking about myths in marketing. You know, there are some things that people tend to believe about marketing communications that maybe were once true, but they aren't anymore, but they still kind of operate that way. And then there are some things that honestly were never true, but people really choose to believe them anyway. I encounter this all the time when I run into, clients. Sometimes their entire, perspective they're operating on is sort of based on myth, or something that worked for them once, or something else. And it's really important to know the difference. It's really important to be able to, it's hard to be a hit in marketing when you're surrounded by so many myths. See, that's what I'm talking about. Today we're going to debunk all of those myths right here on the big show, and we are going to talk about who's winning and losing like we do every week. So I thought in the first segment here, we might start out by talking about some of the things that used to be true but aren't anymore. And the reason that it's dangerous to operate with sort of I always use a football analogy for this. In the NFL a few years ago, it became pretty popular to run college-style offense, to run a read-only type of option where the quarterback might be able to hand the ball off, or he might keep it and run. And some of these running quarterbacks were had extremely successful careers. Robert Griffin the third, Colin Kaepernick, all of these folks, came into the league, and it was thought to be true that maybe to be a quarterback in the new style NFL, that you're going to have to be a runner. You're going to have to be a runner. But see, a funny thing happened on the way to cashing in that myth, and that was that the defenses studied the tape and said, okay, here's how you beat the read option. And NFL defenses are extraordinarily fast, so they have a lot of speed built up. So they were able to, sort of, build a stronger defense around the idea of, if they do read option, we're going to shut it down this way. We're going to shut it down this way. The reason that it worked was the fact that defenses at the pros really weren't prepared to defend it. But once they got prepared to defend it, you see the careers of all of these running quarterbacks pretty much swirling around the old toilet bowl, right? Because defenses have sort of figured it out. Same is true in marketing. If you're operating on a playbook that's even 10 years old, you've got a big problem. You've got a big problem, and that problem is the fact that the defense has caught up. So let's hit a few of these real quick. So number one of my favorites, you must write and act in a formal and professional way to be read and respected in business. People say this to me all the time. They say, you're a journalism school graduate, you're a professional writer, yet you use contractions and broken English and sometimes not even complete sentences to get your point across. Aren't you worried that it might make you seem less professional? No, because I am worried about drawing the bow back, putting the arrow in, and hitting the target. That's the job. Everything else is smoke made up by somebody else. So the fact that you have to behave in a formal and professional way in your communications, actually, that's a great limiting factor in many of the things that I read. Because when you write in this formal, professional way, no one reads it. It's boring. It's not how people talk. It's boring. Your job as the communicator is to not be boring. Your job is to be interesting. And I don't care what your subject matter is. You can write about anything in the most interesting way possible if you just give yourself permission to maybe break some of the rules, right? Now, I'm not saying that you swing the pendulum completely the other direction. Yeah, it's important to act as a professional, but your number one job as a communications professional is to get the message to the sender, right? Or to get the message to the receiver, sorry. So it's really, 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 really important that you understand that. I see people that mess that up all the time, and that's why their stuff has, 300 words instead of 20, and people can read, 20 words a lot quicker and get your point a lot faster, especially in this world where the trend line on reading is really looking kind of bad these days, unless you can create all your communications in a series of emojis, you're going to be in trouble in the next few years. Myth number 2. And I hear this one all the time in the music industry. A lot of people in the music industry operate under the myth that most people who buy music gear are males. This is false. This has been false for a number of years, even though you wouldn't necessarily know it from the marketing. When I worked at NAMM, we did a Gallup study every 3 years, and I was there for 11 years, so I did several of these. And the Gallup data always showed a split that was much closer to 50-50. Way closer to 50-50. It's not even anything that if you talk to most folks in the music industry when they market, they're like, oh yeah, my customers are males. They are not. That is wrong. The data will disprove you every single time and twice on Sunday. The fact of the matter is that music products are consumed in this country and around the world by about 50% male to female. So if you're running your marketing program believing that you are selling to only men, you are probably wrong. Obviously do your own research. It's definitely, but don't operate under that mythology, and make sure you prove it if that's going to be the basis of your marketing plan. Myth number 3, if you sell something, if you're a commercial company out there, then any data that you collect must be biased and skewed. This actually used to be true. People used to sort of believe that if you're a trade association, for example, then you're not going to have a clear perspective on the market. You have an agenda and that kind of thing. But this is something that especially the media typically take these studies out to the consumers, and the media are much more willing to look at your data if you have a good story to tell. If the data is solid, if you collected it through using a scientific method, and you can prove that it's as much without bias, much without being skewed as humanly possible, then yeah, the media will take a look at your data. Also, it's a tremendous opportunity in public relations. While some media don't want to cover your latest product announcement, they do want to look at trends in the marketplace. And if you're sitting on a bunch of data, and you have some trend data on the marketplace, then you might be able to become a source for a really cool story that you might not be looking at otherwise. PR and data is your friend. The kind of data that you have around your organization can sometimes really be unearthed to create something very cool PR-wise. So just because you sell something doesn't mean that you're automatically the devil and your data is not going to be believed by the press. That is not true at all. And it's something that the press are really warming up to more and more. Here in 2016, as long as you have a solid study, you'll be okay. Number 4, the communicator's perspective is more important than the audience's. Now, you've seen this shift dramatically in the last few years. Social media is largely a big culprit of this, but it happened a little bit before social media came on the scene. Basically, the communicator used to sort of hold the power in the relationship of communications. I would say 30, 40 years ago, that was definitely the truth, and marketing was built around that. Now it's much more important, obviously, to kind of really take into account the audience. Yeah, the audience is much more important. All of modern marketing takes in, and even though most people know that, I can point to you so many different approaches that start from we're this, and we're this, and we are this, and we are this, and we want to do this, and we want this, and I just want to, and I say over in my head all the time, I say, they don't care. They don't care who you are. You don't matter. What matters is how you enable them to feel about themselves what they want to feel. Right? It's a big shift. So if you run into a marketing company, or if you're a marketer and you're operating under that, that old perspective, it's going to be dangerous. The last one I want to talk about is publicly apologizing. A myth that says if you publicly apologize, it's going to forgive all sins for the company, that kind of thing. And it actually was true for a good long time. It is not true anymore. If you apologize and you still, and it's disingenuous, or you are perceived as continuing the behavior after the apology, then your reputation is still going to be burnt toast, actually. Look at the NFL, for example. You could look at the NFL for any of these kind of things. Anyway, that's a lot of things that used to be true but aren't anymore. Come on back. We're going to talk about things that were never true in marketing myth busting. You're listening to Maybe Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio. We'll see you in a few minutes.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at whichwich.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICH, whichwich.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Amplify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey. Happy Friday. You are back with May the Best Brand Win right here on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music business talk. And I am Scott Robertson, your host and your buddy for the duration of this whole thing. And with me here on the air is a man who hasn't quite packed for Memorial Day weekend yet, Florentino Buenaventura. How are you?
That's a myth, man. I'm doing good, but that's a myth, I would say.
You got like 1 foot out the door. You're like, I have my bag packed. I'm out.
No, man, this is 24/7 radio, brother.
Oh, okay.
There's no such thing as holidays. No holidays for us over here. we're still churning them out. We got shows going on Mondays for folks. They need to know what's going on in the music business, and they need to know about their marketing. So.
I like that. That. Yes, very cool. Well, we are talking about myths today. We're talking about a lot of myths in marketing. And in the first segment, we talked about things that used to be true, but sort of the world sort of changed, and they're not true anymore. In this segment, we're just going to talk about things that flat out simply were never true. And yet, you'd be amazed at how many people start their marketing programs from these perspectives. I see it all the time. Number one of that is our audience really, really wants to hear from us. I heard that one this week. Is that somebody thought that, our audience we have a really good relationship with our audience, and they really, really want to hear from us. They do not. Their lives are not more complete because of your marketing messages. Okay? You need to stop smoking that. That is not going to work out for you. You must start with the perspective of the fact of your presence as a marketing message is an intrusion on what they actually want to do. Okay? You do not make their lives complete with the rest of your marketing. And it's incredibly arrogant and just flat out wrong to start your marketing from that perspective. And again, as we talked about before, with the audience perspective being the most important in this equation, it's really, really important to add that respect element of their time and that trust element. Which brings us to number two. People trust us and will believe us no matter what we say. That could not be more false. The latest data from Pew Research does not show good things in terms of company trust. Americans' trust of companies, more than 9 out of 10 people do not trust a single word that's uttered by corporations, and with good reason. And that good reason is the fact that they lie all the time. And by lie, I mean, sometimes it's just like a flat out, twisting your evil mustache, complete lie. And then there's all kinds of exaggerations, which are also sort of lies, right? Good example of that. I was in Walmart this past weekend. And I saw like an old set of rabbit ears that they're selling, right? Like rabbit ears that go on TV. It's like an external antenna. Hasn't really been sold in bulk in this country in, decades. And I swear to God, that's what it said on the package. It said, enhanced HD TV receiver. And it's bunny ears, people. I took a picture of it. I mean, the amount of dishonesty packed into that statement almost can't be quantified by human beings. That is a massive lie, right? So companies... companies lie, and they have earned that reputation of the lack of trust. But if you start out with the perspective in your marketing that, people will just trust us if we put out a statement, that's not going to work out for you. They don't trust you. You must start with a perspective of why would anyone believe anything that we had to say ever? And hopefully you can earn that trust. There are some brands out there that try to do it right and try not, to burn those bridges and those kind of things. But, you make those decisions, and you have those decisions to make in your organization every single day. Number three, and this is another good one that comes out a lot in crisis communication, and it's basically that people are sort of dumb enough that if you spin them the right way, they'll just believe anything that your company has to say. This is false. People are very smart. Despite what anyone says, it's an extremely transparent world where people fact check things all the time. And again, in terms of building that trust, you never want to start out with a perspective that you're trying to put one over on, the consumers that you're trying to build a relationship with. Again, when you come at marketing from a perspective that says we're trying to build long-term, mutually beneficial relationships between us and our audiences, then a perspective like this doesn't have any place in that. And that's one of the reasons I don't like the word spin. I'm in public relations. If somebody ever uses the word spin when they're talking with me, I will always correct them. And I always be like, spin is a very short jump to lying. And if you actually do public relations, you don't lie. Not necessarily because you're, more moral or more ethical than anybody else, just the flat out fact that you're going to get busted. The fact that it's a transparent world. There's no way that you're going to get away with it, and so it's really bad for business. In fact, I did a blog post I guess about a year ago called "Lying Bad for Business Since Forever." You always want to be really, really careful with that. And again, that word spin is a bad word to me in public relations because it basically implies that you're trying to deceive. That you're trying to deceive, and you don't want to use public relations to deceive. You want to use it to promote, to build, to do positive things, not necessarily those negative things. Number 4 on this list of things that simply were never true is that, and I get this one a lot when as we've talked a lot on the show about legal and marketing, and when you go in the room together, but basically sometimes. Lying or covering things up is the best thing to do if it protects the company from legal risk and liability. And people will make a strong argument for this. Lawyers have stood up, to me before and said, you know what, we really need to kind of cover this up because it's going to protect the company and we don't want to do anything that's going to emit liability. And from a certain perspective, you can kind of get it, right? But again, as I always say with lawyers, I say, your job is to win in the little courtroom, but it's my job to win in the big one. And the big one keeps the company running. So we all want to make sure that we're protecting the big courtroom. And I'm talking about the court of public opinion. And that's the court that where the media play. That's the court where your social media is playing and those kind of things. And if you're the kind of company that wants to come out with a communication strategy that says we're going to cover things up, you're not going to be in business very long because there are people in this world that take screenshots of every tweet that you do, that take pictures of every bit of your website and everything, and they're just waiting for you to do something stupid like that. Because then they get to post all the before and after photos of what you did on your website this week. And it's so hard to recover from that stuff. So again, communications always we get the perspective and the fact that the small courtroom is important. We don't want to admit liability. There was a case where a comedian's sister was killed in a car crash, and the company that was responsible for the faulty equipment where it basically happened, the insurance company, he was trying to, he's in a distraught state. The comedian's dealing in this distraught state about with his sister who had passed away. And the insurance company, because they didn't want to admit any liability, gave him these extremely cold answers that he put up on social media. And it just made them look like they were the least human organization on the planet. I mean, the guy lost his sister, and they're basically saying, well, it wasn't our fault. Well, it must have been, user errors. Kind of, I mean, these horrible statements, which I'm sure, and I get it. I get the fact that, obviously there can be litigation here. But man, be a human being. Seriously. You're spending all this time, trying to build up. This was a big insurance company. You're spending all this time telling people, oh, we're a big friendly insurance company, and we have all this advertising. It's like, when you prove that? When somebody's sister dies, and you can reach out and be an actual human person, you know. And I'm not saying that you admit all the liability in the world, but you know, those canned answers and that kind of stuff it's not the time or the place for that, right? And they were burned up for that incident on social media. I mean, because the comedian just posted, he said, "I can't believe what I'm hearing from this insurance company," and he basically tagged them and he put the stuff out there, and it stands as one of the, you know, all-time great cautionary tales of what not to do with your social media and what not to do with your customer service, because it can get picked up in social media. The last thing that we want to talk about in terms of things that simply were never true, and this is sort of the too big to fail thing. Our company, our brand is really too big to fail, so our reputation out there doesn't matter, or we can take a small hit. You know, we can take a small hit to our reputation. And these are things that are discussed sometimes. People will say, you know what? I don't think this is going to be that big a deal, and it's, you know, think that through carefully, right? In this world, nothing is guaranteed. You can have the biggest brand in the world, and you can have a couple of bad quarters, and everybody's going to be ditching your stock like the building is on fire. You know what? There is no loyalty. There is none. You know, all those things that we want to believe is true. You know, none of those things are true. You must operate 100% of the time as if you're hungry, that you're still trying to build your brand, those kind of things, and that you're still trying to earn that reputation. You have to earn it every day. That's why branding is so hard, because you can do it right for 40 years, and you can screw it up in one day. And we've all seen that happen. Well, that's about it for the things that simply weren't true. You're still tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing out there this week. We'll see you in a few.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at whichwich.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICH, whichwich.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
It's Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Happy Friday. Before Memorial Day weekend, you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott Robertson, still your host. Imagine that. And possibly your companion for that trip down to Mexico that we've been planning. All right. With me on the air today is the man that hosts the Changing Stage here on Intertalk, Mr. Florentino Buenaventura. How you hanging in?
I'm doing great, man. This, you know what? This, I think, everybody's favorite segment, the losers of the industry. I hate to say it, but people always love the train wrecks, and you just make it so succinct on what these people are not doing right, and it's good so we don't have to fall in those pitfalls.
Absolutely, absolutely, man. That's what we're going to talk about in segment 3. You know, we're going to talk about who's winning and losing out there. So let's get right into it. So without further ado, consumer electronics are actually winning this week. They announced that the consumer sell-through for the 100 largest tech retailers in the U.S. rose by 4.3% last year to a record $136 billion. So consumers are still out there buying electronics, TVs and, possibly drones. I mean, all kinds of cool stuff going on out there. But if you're selling consumer electronics, the uptrend is looking good for you. Let's talk about who's losing out there, and unfortunately, it's newspapers. Newspapers, the trend line on newspapers. It just doesn't look good, which isn't good for all of us for a number of reasons. I recently attended an event over at the Orange County Register put on by PRSA where they had all the new management of the Orange County Register here in Orange County up there, and they were talking about what they were going to do for the what they're going to do to save the paper and all these kind of things. And they were just recently sold to a Digital First Media who owns a bunch of smaller papers here in Southern California. So, and I realized that this was the fourth such meeting that I had been to with different management for the same newspaper. And so that's not good, right? And everyone kind of says the same thing. They always kind of say, well, we're going to try to be more digital, and we're going to try to, create the best content in the world and all these kind of things. But according to, there's an interesting article in USA Today today about Warren Buffett where he's talking about how he loves newspapers, but he is, he's very concerned about it. And he says they basically haven't cracked the code as far as a viable business plan is concerned. Circulation continues to decline at a significant pace, advertising at an even faster pace, and the easy cutting is really taking place. And he says there's no indication that anyone besides the national papers has found a way to survive and make money. Now, how this kind of affects all of us is the fact that having a free press in this country is really, really important to democracy. It's really, really important. Journalism in this country is critically important. We must have different points of view, not owned by the same company. In fact, the LA Times tried to buy the Orange County Register, and the FTC got involved saying, nope, can't own two big media outlets like that. Actually, the group that owns the LA Times owns TV stations and radio stations too. So they said you can't own that many media outlets in one market. Which is probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing that Digital First bought it. But newspapers overall are kind of losing, and nobody's really cracked the idea of, how do we keep this free press alive, in this country, based around newspapers, and how do they continue to make money? So, moving on, there's a lot of outrage this week about an ad in China, which is just an incredibly terrible ad in the sense that it's massively racist. Basically, you probably have heard about this. They call it the racist detergent ad. You can just Google it. Basically, an African-American man and a young Chinese woman are flirting, and he leans in to kiss her, and she thrusts a detergent capsule in his mouth and then throws him into a laundry machine. Then she sits on the machine as the man spins and screams, and then he pops out, and he's a Chinese man dressed in a clean white T-shirt. So it's beyond. It's so racist. It's beyond racist. Even and obviously they're getting a lot of flack for this. In China, and then what the CNN story about it says is it's actually a copy of an Italian ad where they kind of do this. They kind of do the same thing. It's just awful. So anyway, that one's definitely losing, and that not that we're not rushing out to buy the Chinese detergent here, but it just goes to show that even if you have a regional crisis problem, it can destroy your brand in areas where they can't even buy your product. So anyway, interesting. In the sort of not necessarily winning or losing category, just kind of interesting news category is basically Guitar Center has a new PR agency, which is good. Because Guitar Center's PR has never been good from my perspective. The new firm is called Pray Tell, and it's going to help the retailer, they say, reach beyond serious musicians out to newbies picking up an instrument for the first time or going for lessons. Not a new idea by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly there's a lot of work to be done there. And it's kind of interesting. What's interesting about it is I've talked a couple of times on this show about Guitar Center not handling their crisis situations very well. There's a lot of no comments out there. What's particularly interesting about the story is, I always when I think about Guitar Center, I do kind of think about no comment because they get caught in the no comment trap all the time. And at the end of this story, it talks about the new agency coming online. It says, a Guitar Center rep was not immediately available for comment. In the article where they announce the new PR agency, they can't comment on that. Oh, my goodness. Oh, please help me. Anyway, let's talk about Twitter. Twitter and Facebook, interesting thing is happening with them right now. The number of Twitter shares is dropping pretty quickly, and the number of Facebook shares has slipped by approximately 21% as they announced on their last shareholder call. So the sharing of different stories on the network is slipping by 21%, and that shows you more active users, right? So a lot of people are starting to use this as a time to comment and say, are we finally sick of social media? Is it dying out? Honestly, probably not, but it is interesting to watch the sharing because that will tell you not just who has an account, but who's actually using it actively. Twitter still boasts, by the way, more than 310 million active users per month. But the downward trend is definitely something that concerns. So I think we have to put them in the losing column for at least for this week. Let's talk about chasing millennials. I run into this a lot where people say, how do we reach millennials? Anybody who was born in 1980 to basically all the way to the start of the millennium. It's basically the generation that kind of came after Generation X. Is a good way to think of it. And corporate America is really interested in sort of chasing the millennials. And there's a great article in the New York Times this week about how corporate America is chasing the mythical millennial, and talks about how the millennials actually conform to a lot of other sort of characteristics of other demographic groups, and don't have that much unique about their own. Basically, there's 75 million Americans born 1980 to 2000, and they are the largest demographic group in the country. Have displaced the baby boomers. They are actually more racially diverse than any generation in American history. They don't really read that much news, apparently. But what's really, really interesting about this story is it talks about the most glaring problem with other efforts to go after the younger set. And it's basically, it talks about the demographic group existing as an amorphous block. Basically the fact that folks have tried to kind of make this data mean something, but the actual data behind millennials is actually sort of inconclusive at best. So I know this one guy that always tries to that hangs out in a networking group that I belong to, that always wants to be sort of the expert in millennialness, you know, and says, well, millennials don't think that way, millennials don't feel that way, and that kind of thing. And you know, my son is one, so I certainly have a great example of millennial behavior, you know, right here at home, and you know. It's a tougher group to get a read on. The baby boomers and Generation X have a lot more, especially, I urge you to read that article, by the way. Go to the NewYorkTimes.com and read it. It's by Farhad Manjoo, and it's a great piece. It's in the technology section about corporate America chasing the mythical millennial. But I would have to say anybody doing that is definitely on the losing side of things. And then let's wrap this up by talking about the Olympics. Man, the Olympics the Summer Olympics are about 100 days away. And man, I've never seen quite a list of this many problems at once. A lot of problems. Basically, you know, before every Olympics, there seems to be a lot of problems, and then they seem to kind of figure it out, right? But man, did you know that there's 23 athletes in an Olympic committee investigation who have tested positive for doping in a massive scandal that could ban 31 yet unnamed athletes from 12 companies and 6 sports from participating? So that's a lot of doping, people. The Zika virus, you know, basically so Rio is sort of the center of this outbreak of this yet to be understood disease, and a lot of people are saying it might not be a good idea to go to Rio because we don't understand this disease, and sending 500,000 people into the center of it could be, you know, a global pandemic. So we have to watch the Olympics very closely and see what they do communications-wise, but it seems like they're having a lot of, more problems than I can even talk about on this show. It's insane. But Olympics are losing this week. You are still tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the absolute undisputed leader in music biz talk. And come on back. We're going to talk about what to do when you suspect something is a myth. Have a good one.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at whichwich.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICHWICH. Whichwich.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, Behind the Velvet Rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Stay tuned, folks. Scott will be right back with you. In the meantime, we will be tuning into our other station channel.
Cohen and Marsha Collier.
So here's the question, Marcia. Here's the question, Marcia. If you were a company and you knew you could gouge somebody by doing something sneaky, would you do it?
Well, I personally wouldn't, but it seems that Uber's head of economic research, Ken Chen, admitted.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
This
is a crazy story, I have to say.
You know, when your phone's dying, you get a little desperate.
Yep.
And it seems that ride-hailing company Uber knows all about that. And they admitted that riders with a dying battery are willing to pay more in surge pricing. So,
yep.
Since the app gets permission to use your camera, your location, your contents, and even your battery life, why your battery?
Why?
Because it's so the app can go into low power mode.
Right.
But Mr. Chen
So
also casually mentions that people with dying batteries are far more willing to pay many times the regular price for a ride. And this was explained on NPR's The Hidden Brain podcast, so we're not...
Right.
Uber would like to emphasize that it would never use this knowledge to artificially jack up your rates. We, quote, we absolutely don't use that to kind of like push you a higher price.
You know?
All right, we have Scott Robertson back on. You know, sometimes the myth of the internet is that it always works all the time.
So true, man. I was getting ready to come back on. I went, oh, looky there. Yeah. Well, we were talking about the myths of marketing and the myths of connecting to the internet, all kinds of fun things. So in the first segment, we talked about things that used to be true but really aren't anymore. In segment 2, we talked about things that really simply were never true. And we took a little time to go over who's winning and losing out there. But here in segment 4, I think I wanted to I always like to turn it around back to you and make it, here's what you do when you suspect something might be a myth. This is sort of what I like to do. So the first thing we do is we don't want to act on it just yet. Really, really important. When you suspect something might be a myth, like let's take all of our customers are male, for example. You're selling music products. Somebody, more senior than you in the industry comes in and says, well, we're selling to men. We've always sold to men, and that's who we're selling to, that kind of thing. And you suspect that's a myth. The first thing you want to do is don't take any action on it. Try to put off any action on it because, again, if you start from that perspective, everything that you do from that perspective is probably going to be, somewhat wrong. So don't act, The second thing you do is question it, and I mean logically question it. Basically, and some people can kind of get defensive, I understand that, when they get questioned. But remember, you're trying to do the best possible job for a client, for an organization that you work for, that kind of thing. And asking questions is sort of what separates us from the artificial intelligence out there, right? We have the ability to sort of question things and kind of figure things out. It's a great thing about being a human being. So I would definitely say make sure that you are, questioning that myth. Like, for example, let's just use the myth of most people who buy music gear are male. you want to say, how do we know this is true? Where, let's assume it is true. How would we know? What does that look like? And then you start asking sort of, why questions. Well, what does, where do we get this from? And you start to and you want to start to kind of build a foundation for sort of to understand that. And that really takes us to number 3, which is, our research phase, right? So a lot of times when you're a marketer, you're part artist certainly, but you're definitely part scientist. And this is where your science skills are going to come into place, come into play. You want to research things. Where did this myth come from? Who said it first? When? Why? You want to do a lot of historical research on these kind of things and make sure you understand it. Because when you understand it, you might realize that, human beings are flawed. People could have said something that was based on no data back then, and everybody just said, well, that sounds pretty good. Let's just believe that, But when you, and actually you find that quite a lot. If you start to research, old sayings and old, all kinds of things like that. Seth Godin had a really interesting thing about metaphors. And he said metaphors are useful, but they're actually very rarely true. And useful in the sense that it helps people understand larger ideas. But, when you look at them sort of factually, they're usually not all that true. But that research component's really, really important. So again, number 1, we're not acting on it. Number 2, we are actually going to, put it up for questioning. And number 3, we're going to research that myth. Number 4, really important, ask other people what they think. This is one of the great advantages of working in an organization and having a team and having, all these different perspectives. None of us see the world exactly the same way. So we want to ask other people what they think. If you're a music manufacturer and you're, let's say the boss says, okay, we're selling only to men. You want to ask your dealers, the simple and fairly obvious question, which is, are you selling to women, out there? And what does that look like? And how many? And that sort of thing. And ask other people, so you're not just operating from a single perspective, which a lot of marketing, can come from. A lot of these marketing assumptions can kind of come from a single person in the organization. Sometimes it's a CEO, and if you're the CEO, be careful what you what you throw out there as sort of the law of the land, because it depends on the kind of culture that you've built. But if you're the kind of CEO that throws things out and says, we only sell to men, my grandfather sold to men, I sell to men, my grandson's going to sell to men, that kind of thing, then you're closing the door on what I would call the actual truth. I just told you that the Gallup data shows the 50-50 split. So if you're the CEO that says we only sell to men, you are flat out wrong. You couldn't be any more wrong. And if you're the CEO that is, excited about, pounding your fist on the table and saying that, then you are going to set up a marketing organization and a marketing program that is going to fail because you are not starting with the right perspective. The right perspective starting out guides you all the way through. That's why the fundamental work that we do in terms of messaging, in terms of putting the marketing plan together, that's why I emphasize that stuff so much. Because what you must understand is if you don't do that stuff right, there's nothing that you can do that's going to make it great. Very important. Last thing to do is you want to play out all sides hypothetically and really see what's likely to happen. It's really, really important to do that. Play it out and say, if we did sell to all men, here's what that looks like. Here's what it looks. Be a scientist here and play that kind of stuff out. In this episode, we've been talking about the truth. There isn't actually just one. There are many. Many things that we believe to be true. When we research them, we find out that they're really somebody else's version of the truth. These myths can cloud our judgment, and they can stop us from doing the right thing in marketing. So it's really important to clean out our mental closet and really question everything we believe about our profession from time to time. It ensures that we're operating from the clearest perspective to provide our companies and our organizations the very best counsel and the very best work. Well, that's it for me, kids. You've been listening to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. Have a great Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you back here same time next week. Later.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Which sandwich is healthy and tasty? Which sandwich can come on bread or in a bowl? Which sandwich comes 51 different ways, so it's always your way? A which sandwich. Stop into our shop in Hazard Center. We're upstairs from the Hazard Center Digiplex. Bring in your movie ticket. We will add a free drink and chips to your sandwich order. Or order online at whichwich.com, and we will have it ready and waiting. WHICH, whichwich.com.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to record on a Grammy award-winning album? Have you ever wondered what it's like to play in front of a stadium crowd? Have you ever wondered what it's like to be on a world tour? I'm Jackie Bertoni, and I've played with the who's who in the music industry, and I've toured the world. Come join my world, behind the velvet rope, and get into the groove on Jackie's Groove. Live 2 p.m. Mondays and available 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com.
Hey, it's Catherine from Listen Local Radio. Moe's Guitars has proudly served the San Diego music community since 1975. Specializing in guitars, basses, mandolins, banjos, and ukuleles, they buy, sell, trade, and consign. If you're looking for lessons, repairs, accessories, and cool gear, you found the right place. Located in downtown La Mesa Village, stop by and check out their digs or visit moesguitars.com or their Facebook page. mozeguitars.com, 619-698-1185.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. Pitbullaudio.com.